Good morning. Happy Monday. Yes, it's time for all of you guys to get up and go to work. Though I know a lot of you probably watch this later in the day, or if you watch it at all, or whatever. So I apologize for rerunning Saturday's thing on Sunday, but I was not in any available way to broadcast anything. My legs were in severe pain. I have diabetic neuropathy, if anyone's interested. That got me into this chair. So, who knows? Maybe Sundays we'll do a week in review, the best of the week. We'll wait and see. But sit back, get your coffee, tea, hot chocolate, lemonade, whatever you like, and we'll get going. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is talk about something I just heard on a YouTube site. You know, one of those, the 10 strangest laws. And this comes from, I believe, the Alabama. And I know it plays into a lot of the hillbilly, I'm a hillbilly mentality when none of them really talk that way. But the whole point of in Alabama, it is legal to marry into an incestuous relationship. Now, before a lot of you get upset and about, marriage is traditional and we're not going to look at it from that point. And I'd like you to keep an open mind about this law in Alabama. And yes, it's wrong, and many cultures have the same sort of laws that you can't marry anyone into your immediate family. Now, supposedly cousins are fine, and we're going to take a look at this from a medical perspective. And I can remember we did this whole section on during genetics. And we were told then that anyone could not marry someone into their immediate family. This would include brothers marrying sisters, sisters marrying brothers, and today it could be sisters marrying sisters, brothers marrying brothers, fathers marrying sisters, fathers marrying mothers marrying sons. And along with this story was this lady who decided to marry her son. And there were pictures of it, and I couldn't believe that we still had a state, a province, whatever, where incest was legal. And, we hear all these stories and, all the people, oh, I love him so much. But marrying your own son is a little crazy, and the reason for this is that if you marry someone into your immediate family, there's not enough gene selection there. So what you end up getting is you get a lot of, not handicaps, but you get an awful lot of people who could have deformities. Now, like any science, it's always a percentage. But still, that's why an awful lot of cultures have yes, no, you can't marry your brother, your sister, your mother, your father. And, why would you, if you married your daughter and the daughter got pregnant, why would you open up that son or that daughter from your son or your daughter to have medical issues? Now, some people and some faith down there, think that this is okay. And the reasons why the governments did this was not sort of to hinder selection, to hinder choice. It was more to make people a better selection. And what you end up getting is someone with, the strongest people will prevail. Now, then this opens up the whole can of worms that anyone who has a disability shouldn't be allowed to have children. And now, this is where it gets a little touchy. But from the initial incest, if you take a look at the Muslims or the Buddhist or, well, even if you take a look at Christianity, and most in North America, most of the laws come from a Judeo-Christian faith. And in there, you cannot marry your son, your immediate family. So, if there is any defective gene, now, if you have studied genetics, there is always recessive and dominant genes. And if you're in there and you're going to procreate with a son or a daughter, the chances are that any recessive gene that you carry can double up. Whereas if you marry someone who's out of your gene pool, the chances are that somebody who is born from that will end up healthier and stronger. So it's sort of like any defects that you hold can be passed on. But then people get into this, and I'm sure why Alabama has this law is because people get upset that, government in our family life, and they're choosing sides, and the whole thing. And I think nowadays we really have to look past that, and we have to say, what? Why are we going to open up children with more deformities? And a lot of them say, oh, well, I'll love my son, I'll love my daughter, whatever they come out as. It's God's will. Well, I don't think it really is God's will. I think it's your choice. I think God's will is that you do whatever it takes to have a strong child. And I think, it would be different if you were trying to start, you were the only humans on race and you wanted to start, the human race over again. Well, maybe for a while, but you want to ensure that there's enough cross-selection, and right now, there's enough cross-selection. Now, you may get into choices, and okay, that's the woman's prerogative. But marrying a son or daughter is just wrong from a medical viewpoint. Now, for the people who have married children, and I mean, there's an awful lot who are hiding in across Canada, across the United States. It's probably worldwide that they've married their son or their daughter, and from that they have had children, and they end up hiding it. So you really have to wonder, if you're hiding it, the relationship must be wrong, or you're looking at it, or you're tired of being fascinated at it, and don't. A, if you marry your husband is your son, your daughter, your father, whatever, because we have, as a society, chosen that this is something wrong. And I mean, it's been in the books, I believe it's in the Bible, I believe it's in most of the other documents, that you shouldn't be marrying your immediate family members. Now, this could even go as far as, and I've heard this, and I don't know if this is 100%, but if you marry your first cousin because there's another family gene pool intersecting, then that is okay. Don't quote me on that. But I think you really should look outside the family. Now, I think, you really have to look that if you have a parent who's married you, he or she kind of has dual roles, especially if you're underage. Oh yeah, I married them at 14. Well, that person doesn't really know what's going on. And, I think if this ever comes up for you for discussion, I think you will all have the notion that yes, this is wrong. And because it's wrong, everyone says, well, God looks at it that it's wrong. But if you have a child who has a disability, and it could be as easy as someone who has the diabetes gene, or it could be as severe as multiple sclerosis, I don't think God would really want you to have a child that is open to all of these when it's something that could have been chosen in daily life. Now, I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, I think we all can agree that incest is wrong. That, mothers, fathers, if one dies or if there's a divorce, should go outside looking. And I think an awful lot of times they're confused about people and what's happened. It's just can bring up thoughts. It can bring up many different arguments. And I'm not opening a can of worms, but, besides yourself, talk about what the causes of incest are with your child. And I think the notion from mother to a father to, it's kind of a cross problem. When are they your mother? When are they your husband? And, there's a picture of this woman kissing, like I'm talking a full makeout kiss, with this child. And the child could have been 7 or 8. But he's all dressed up in a tuxedo and she's kissing him. To me, that's pretty well child abuse. And even older, when a woman or a man can make a decision, I still think it's wrong. I still think you don't want to have your children deal with issues that could have been avoided if you had gone out of your gene pool. Anyway, I've gone over my time limit on this, so we'll be back shortly with step 2. Okay, now in Burnaby, sorry, God, it's pretty wet. There was a shooting overnight. And the shooting was actually very close to where I'm broadcasting. And this shooting was a man who got shot, is now in hospital, and it's the 5th one of the year. So my questions are, do we really have to go and shoot someone? A lot of these people, and I think it's the mentality, and I think it's partly the gangs of what we're seeing. If something is done wrong, or you've done something wrong to me, you're going to go out, you're going to get a gun, or you're going to get a knife or whatever, and cause bodily harm. And I think this is not what we really need in our society. But, a lot of religious orders always have said forgiveness. And, we get into ISIS and how ISIS says, no, Muslims are not. And if you talk to a true Muslim, it's that, yes, there's forgiveness there, and there's forgiveness in Christianity. Christianity has really pushed the forgiveness part. So why do we find it necessary to go and get a gun? Well, personal use of a gun, I'm fine with it. If you're a hunter, for all the reasons, you can have a gun. No problem there whatsoever. But just a regular person, I need the protection of the house. And in the States, we get into gun control, and at least in Canada, we have some gun control. And we went through a period of people fighting over it and saying, oh no, I have a right to bear arms. And, what happened to love thy neighbor? If we all hear this in the States, and a lot of the States is, I have a right to carry arms, and we end up to people wanting protection and wanting to hold on to their guns. And, I believe that carrying your gun or having your gun can be a way of protecting yourself. Okay, we'll give you that. But do you really need to have a gun like an AK-47 machine gun? Do you really think that's going to help? I don't think, it does any good. Now, let's take a look at the American, I think, the Second Amendment. that everyone has the right to bear arms. And when that was written, it was muskets. And there is a video somewhere on Facebook, and I wish I could find it, of a man coming in to do, to shoot up a place. And he comes in and everyone screams, oh my God, oh my God. And there's passerby and, oh my God, gun. And he gets off one shoot, doesn't kill anyone, and then goes for a second round and pulls out his, thing that they put it down with, and it takes him, 5 minutes? So, I think that people who are saying, and across the board or whatever, that if a person wants to have a gun for protection, that a gun is fine, but it should be limited to a handgun. If a person is a hunter, that's fine. Allow them to have suitable protection. And, the whole part about in different places so kids don't, we always hear the very sad details of a child, seeing police dramas, and the States are great for putting out police dramas, and we've all sit there, we've all enjoyed it. But I can remember as a kid, it was, I think, the Sunday mystery movie, and you had different ones. You had, like, Columbo, but for the beginning of it, like, where the murder's all taking place or whatever, we had to go clear the table, or we had to go get something, or, oh, I left the lights on in the garage. Could you go out and get it? So that kids weren't open to the murder part of the show. It's great. Oh, we found a body. And we were allowed to watch after that. But, I don't think we should be so ready out to cause people pain. We seem to be in a rush to saying that, this person did that to me and I need revenge. Well, as I said earlier, most religions have rules or laws or commandments or whatever you want to call it, stipulating that you should be kind. Now, in Christianity, and I only speak for Christianity, it's love thy neighbor. And that doesn't mean sexual love or whatever. It means that you should treat someone else as the same as you would treat you. So, would you want to go out, get a gun, and shoot at yourself? I don't think so. I think we've passed that period, and we need to move on and allow people to carry on. If you think someone has done something that bad to you, then maybe you should talk it over with someone. I don't know, it could even be a friend, but people having guns can only really lead to more violence. And the NRA in the States, and I don't know what the Canadian equivalent is, can really sort of sit there and say, oh yes, but now people carry more things, so we need to have more weapons. And I guess I'm more along the side of gun control, but not saying that no one can't have any guns. But I agree with the Democratic position in the States and up here that people should have guns who are able to use them. And if you're not able to use them, like people who have committed crimes or who have been in a psychiatric hospital, I think should not have right to bear arms. But, I think the NRA in the States needs to get out of politics. They want politics because they say it's to protect their Second Amendment. Well, if you protect your Second Amendment, would be fine. You could have a pistol. If you're a hunter, you can have guns if they're stored correctly. Now, we've had people who have had armed conflict convictions, people who are mental, we'll call it mental need, because I did a talk on Saturday or Friday night, this was both the same video, that you should be able to carry, or you shouldn't be able to carry drugs if your mental capacity is weakened. But you should also not be able to carry arms if you want to do harm to another person. And that's something that, the law books can't really look at. But I think we have to say, enough is enough. We don't want violence. Now, in Burnaby this year, there were 5 incidents with a gun. And, earlier this summer, there was a shooting just like blocks from here. It wasn't even a block, really. And there were stabbings here, too. And that's just as bad. So, having a weapon for yourself is fine. Having a weapon to do damage to someone else isn't fine. And, I don't think to protect yourself that you need a bazooka or you need a AK-47. And to the argument that, the people coming to attack you would have more of those. And, we say no because it's a way of protecting ourselves and it's all our legal right. Could be your legal right, but why? And I'm going to hopefully find that video off YouTube and copy it and insert, but if I can't, I'm sorry. But it's what the founding fathers showed. And I think what's really happened is that religion has fallen out of favor in society. Now, the 40s and the 50s, everyone kind of got up Sunday morning and they went to church or temple or, they met in fellowship halls but there was some religion, and religion gives us structure. And, in those religions, I can remember I went to Sunday school. I'm not a churchgoer now, but I went to Sunday school and I tried to even though I don't go to church, I do read the Bible every so often, and I follow the guidelines. But that doesn't mean that I can screw everything. I try not to do injury to anyone else, whether it be, going out and shooting them. I try to be nice to people, and I don't really care what religion, what nationality you are. There are people in my neighborhood who are Asian, and some of the senior people don't speak English. That's fine. But I've had them try to say good morning or hello, and I've tried to learn the different dialects of Asian to say good morning, or I wave, or I smile. And, I really think even for people who, not agnostic, I can't think of the word, but is against religion right now, why is there not sort of a following that they can do, where people are kind to one another? I think it's a lot people who don't go to church, who don't sort of follow any guidelines. Now, I don't say these guidelines, if you're attacked, you should have the right to defend yourself with reasonable means, and I believe that's what the Canadian law says. So, if someone attacks you, you should have the right to defend yourself. But again, if someone comes in with a gun, or let's say a baseball bat, if you pull out a gun, and you don't give them warning, that's not acceptable. However, if someone comes in with a gun, you can use a gun. That would be acceptable because they have a right. They don't have a right, but they can defend themselves. So, should we have gun control? I think we need gun regulations, but I don't think, like years ago, there was people going in and taking guns and take them to the police. And I don't think in Canada we were giving prizes, but I know in the States there was. And like I said, for those who watch in the States, there can be a right to bear arms, but it's the right to bear arms for reasonable. Now, it doesn't say that in the Second Amendment, and I think that's what your founding fathers had. And I think an awful lot of Americans have gone and said, it's my God-given right. Well, it really isn't your God-given right. It was a bunch of men sitting in a room in Philadelphia which came up with the Constitution. So I don't think everyone needs an AK-47, and I don't agree with the National Rifle Association, which says that the only way to protect from a bad man or a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. That, you have one weapon, it's just going to evolve into more weapons or such. So, where do we stop? Well, I think we need some regulations. And, having a background check on people, it's a little hard for a store clerk to say to a customer, no, you can't have that firearm. Now, recently in Vancouver, there was a shooting at a Canadian Tire because someone wanted a gun. So, if you turn it over to your police departments, that if a person wants to buy a gun, the sellers who are selling guns would have to see the license. And then you get in, well, there could be fraud, but it just takes that edge off. That if you're unable to prove that you're able to get a gun, should you have a gun? But, people are thinking, oh, well, yes, that doesn't work and blah, blah, blah. Well, it does take a while. And in Canada, most of the people I see out on the street do not have guns, or they can't go get a gun. And while we do have some gun violence in Canada, it's a lot less. And we probably follow the same lines as the country that sort of settled us, Great Britain. The number of deaths per capita is a lot less up here than it is down there. But, the Americans still want the right, and we still think we have the rights, and I don't think we should have open gun laws here. I think, where people are going and fighting, and I still think we need some sort of religious bringing up. And I'll call it religious. For those of you who aren't religious, why don't you guys form groupings and come up with some sort of rules that, okay, I'm not religious, but I can live by these rules. There's no grounding with people who don't believe in a religion. Now, when I say there's no grounding, what I mean is there is no one or no rule or such that if people don't believe in a religion, it's kind of open and they can do whatever they want. And some ways I totally agree with it. But in other ways, we need to love our neighbor, no matter what religion you are, or if you believe in God or you don't believe in God. We still have to love our neighbors. Anyway, we'll be back shortly. Okay, I think we've got over on both of our little talks so far. But there was Craig Cunningham, who's, I guess, played with Boston Bruins, and he was playing with an Arizona, I don't know what you call it, minor league. And he collapsed on ice, and paramedics did CPR, and he's now in an Arizona hospital because of the collapse. And, people don't realize, because of the money value, how much money is spent, and, how much these players are paid to get out there every week and, play games or for our entertainment. And who knows if Craig Cunningham was feeling his best. But Craig Cunningham is from BC. He's actually from the Trail area. And I think we need to, our thoughts, our prayers, whatever you want to go, should go to the Cunningham family in Trail, who the mother had gone down to watch him play, and is said to be by his side. But no matter what you're going through, I think we really have to stop and think, other people have it worse off than you do. Now, for most of the time, I use a scooter or a chair to get around. And that is because I have diabetic neuropathy and my legs can be painful. Like this weekend, like last night, I couldn't vlog because my legs were in pain. And, I don't sit there and wallow, oh, well, God, I wish I was better and all that, because there is someone always worse off than you. And Craig Cunningham is in hospital I believe he's still unconscious, or we'll call it a coma just for the sake of this. But, we should, especially being a Sunday and we're heading into the Christmas season, no matter what your beliefs are, you should always take belief that, there are other people off worse. And I don't really want this to be, oh yes, we're so great, and no, that's not what it's meant. It is meant to be, if something goes wrong in your life, always remember that there are others out there who are going through worse times than you. And it doesn't matter what you're going through. And I can't sit there and point out everyone. And I can remember, when I was diagnosed with diabetes, I thought it was great because I lost a whole bunch of weight. And, I went back to school and people were asking, are you a new kid? Because I was away from school for a month. But because of that, I thought diabetes was great. It was until I had to go back for a realignment. I think I spent like 3 weeks in a hospital getting a new dose. And back then, this is what happened. If you had a bad episode, or you were pretty well told to go home and be back to see or go through diabetic classes, but in one of these classes someone said, well, do you feel bad about having diabetes? And I had never thought of it, well, yeah, because you can't have what you want. And I had made a comment then saying, well, I just have it. But nowadays that could be acceptable if you count your carbs. But again, there are people who are trying to diet for whatever reason, or there's people in a hospital, or people who have had heart attacks, or nowadays even people being shot. So we really sort of have to stand back and say, I'm lucky, no matter what your condition is. And because you remember, there is always someone worse off than you. So, because of this, have a pep talk with yourself. You're great, and you should be out there every single day. And do your best. People who have decided, well, I've stopped treatment for whatever, that's fine. And does that mean we stop looking for new drugs or whatever? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that whatever comes up in your life, whether it be medical, whether it be financial, there is always someone off worse than you. And We have to take a look at that. And when crisis comes to us, we always seem to be self-centered. Oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And we all put stress on us. But I think if we remember that we have other people who are dealing with a hell of a lot worse than we are, kind of makes it a little bit lighter and helps you get on. Now, I don't mean that you say, well, I'm not going to pay my bills and all that. Everyone's going to have to be happy with that. But I think it allows you to calm down a bit and to go over what's happening to you and to help you settle. If someone else is worse off than you, if there's anything you can do to help those people, by means, go out and help. But if you're unable to help, wish them the best. So often people say, oh, if there's anything I can do to help, let me know. But you know they're never going to ask. Because, our whole society is built on, oh, you can do it. But there are times when you don't feel you can do it. And people who are out there, yesterday we were heading out of I call it coffee with old people, but it was just our normal coffee group. And there was a lady walking along the road, and she was blind. And if she wasn't blind, she was doing a damn good job of it. But, she was heading towards the street, so we kind of guided her. We gave her whatever change we had, and this allowed her to go on her merry way. That is helping someone. I'm not saying, oh, buy them a brand new house, and that's not what I'm saying. Everyone is worse off than you, and helping someone when you can is the greatest thing. And, we're heading into the Christmas season, so, if you have a family next door to you that is having financial problems and they have kids, and you're able to maybe buy a Christmas gift, wrap it up, put it on Christmas Eve, put it on their doorstep. It could bring back the belief in Santa for a lot of these kids. Something we really need to think about and get out there and do something. And we'll be back. Okay, in closing thoughts today, we are talking a lot about love thy neighbor stuff. And I think that's whether you believe in Christianity or not, you still should believe in helping or, believe that someone else has it off worse than you. And I think we really need to stop and, take a breather and calm down. And I don't think if someone crosses your path, and I think I've told this story before about when I was an older kid and, I was on the bus and getting off and someone who had had a little bit more to drink than they should have. But this person fell out of the bus, and there was a lady who had got off, and they sort of had stopped, kind of like, where are we going? And this person fell on them, and the husband just, went off in a tirade saying, I should just beat you up to a pulp. And it went on for like 5 minutes. So, what would be the problem if someone said, here, do you need help? Sit down. But we let anger rule our lives. So love thy neighbor, or do unto you as you would have other people do unto them. You don't always have to win in everything in life. Well, you should, but anything should be win-win. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye now.